Welcome. Welcome to the info session for the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains program. We're really excited that you'll be joining us for the next hour to hear about this incredible program. While I do a little intro to everyone, feel free to use the Q&A button and tell us where you're tuning in from today. We have a really fun international audience and students from across the country that join us for the program. So it's always really great to hear where people are listening in from. So you can use the Q&A and pop in where you're from. But while we're kind of getting oriented, I just wanted to introduce the folks that will be joining us today for the info session. So on the Columbia side, Laurel DiSera will be joining us to share about the lessons that she teaches in the program. Laurel is a doctoral student in the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences at Columbia University, and she's studying climate science. We're also joined by Lina Paykar, who is a summer 2024 participant, and Lina is going to be sharing about her experience in the program. Avery Stern is from Putney Student Travel. Avery at Putney is on the hiring team. She programs middle school France and Holland programs, and she leads travel programs as well. So Avery is going to be talking about the history, mission, and goals of Putney Student Travel, as well as how to take the next step in applying for the Green Mountains program for this summer. And finally, Sarah Wagner is a graduate student in the MA Climate and Society program at the Columbia Climate School, and Sarah's going to be monitoring our Q&A today. All right. So for our run of show for today, we're going to start with some brief introductions to the organizations behind this effort, the Columbia Climate School and Putney Student Travel. We're then going to provide an in-depth overview of the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains program. So this includes outlining the student experience, key program themes, teaching approaches, insights into Columbia Climate School's experts leading the program, and an overview of select lessons that will be covered during the experience. We can't go through everything today, but we're going to give you a little taste of some of the things that you'd be learning on the program. We're also going to give a glimpse into a day in the life of the Green Mountains student. So we're going to highlight the experience, which includes team building and experiential learning activities, engaging debates and simulations that really deepen the understanding of climate challenges and solutions, hands-on fieldwork focused on data collection and analysis, excursions that showcase practitioners applying climate solutions in their careers, project-based learning opportunities to drive impact and foster innovation, and just fun activities that allow us to explore and enjoy Vermont's beautiful summers. It really is one of a kind. We're going to conclude by sharing about the program eligibility, application process, and next steps that you can take. If you have questions throughout the program, please leave your questions in the Q&A button. We're going to leave time at the end to answer all of your questions, but don't wait till the end to populate. Feel free to do it at any point. The Columbia Climate School is Columbia University's School of Interdisciplinary Climate Research. It was announced in July 2020, and the Climate School is the first new school to be established at the university in 25 years. The Climate School's mission is to develop and inspire knowledge-based solutions and educate future leaders for just and prosperous societies on a healthy planet. Columbia University is a global leader in climate and sustainability education and has a longstanding history of earth and environmental science education and research. Our story begins over 70 years ago with the founding of Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, which is located just 20 miles north of New York City on a 189-acre campus overlooking the Hudson River. It's recognized as the #1 scientific institution in the U.S. dedicated to earth and environmental sciences, and Lamont has been at the forefront of groundbreaking climate research. So Columbia University and Lamont scientists have played pivotal roles in advancing our understanding of climate change. The term global warming was actually coined in 1972 by Dr. Wallace Broecker, a renowned Lamont scientist and Columbia University professor of geology. Marie Thorpe is a pioneering geologist and cartographer at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, and she revolutionized plate tectonics by co-discovering the Mid-Atlantic Ridge and creating the first detailed maps of the ocean floor, which revealed the ridge's rifts and valleys that is evidence of seafloor spreading. Lamont's research also contributes toward the first model to accurately predict the extreme weather patterns of El Nino events. These achievements are just glimpses of some of the transformative discoveries that have emerged from Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory and inform the work we do at Columbia Climate School today. Also, the Earth Institute was established in 1996 and is Columbia University's largest research institution that brings together over 750 environmental scientists, policy analysts, engineers, and other experts. As a driving force behind many of the programs that are now a part of the Columbia Climate School, the Earth Institute was created to address critical challenges at the intersection of sustainability, climate, natural hazards, and the relationship between human society and the environment. For nearly 3 decades, it's championed evidence-based, research-driven solutions to tackle these complex issues and advance global sustainability. The Columbia Climate School is committed to offering interdisciplinary educational opportunities for graduate, undergraduate, and pre-college students, as we recognize that they're the next generation of change makers that are essential stakeholders to address the climate crisis. So, why do we think young people are so critical? Well, climate is this long-term problem. We're experiencing the challenges now, but the next generations are going to be the most affected. So young people need to be a part of the climate solutions in developing new climate technologies, ways to combat climate injustices, and new adaptation approaches to climate impacts. And we do that by equipping young people with the knowledge and skills and tools to drive solutions forward. And it's not that we need everyone to be a climate scientist. We need a diversity of skills, passions, and careers, with climate science serving as the underpinning of that work. Our pre-college programs show how Earth processes, climate science, and sustainability can be integrated into any career path that you choose. So whether you do want to become a climate scientist, or maybe a lawyer, or a politician, or an artist, doctor, or work in any other field, climate will affect your work, and your contributions in your work can be a part of the solution as well. A key focus to all of our pre-college programs is empowering young people to become community leaders. Since meaningful climate action often begins at the local level, we aim to equip future climate activists with tools to mobilize their communities and drive lasting change. Through our partnership with Putney Student Travel, we're able to offer this exceptional summer experience that immerses the students in hands-on, in-the-field learning by Columbia Climate School experts. These programs provide high schoolers with exclusive access to advanced climate content that's rarely available at this level. I'm now going to pass it over to Avery to share a little bit more about Putney Student Travel's history, mission, and goals.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Avery, and I'm one of the directors at Putney Student Travel. And just to give you a little bit of an overview of Putney, we are an organization that runs educational travel programs for high school and middle school students all over the world. And our mission is to provide opportunities for students to learn and grow and collaborate and embrace the new, all while keeping them safe. We aim to use summer vacation for education, and we really encourage our students to deeply connect with the world around them and through immersion and experiential learning opportunities. We run a small group travel program of about 16 students and 2 leaders, in addition to a series of our larger campus-based programs like this one, and we lead programs across 6 continents. One of the things that makes us particularly unique is that we establish and maintain long-standing relationships with our contacts and communities across the globe. And it's what allows these experiences to happen. And students are able to step back into these decades-long relationships and feel as if they have family wherever they are in the world. We are based in Putney, Vermont, in southern Vermont, and we work out of a restored cow barn. So we have a unique collection of 30 colleagues, and we refer to ourselves as working in the barn. Among our program directors, we have Peace Corps volunteers, former teachers, a licensed ship captain, anthropologists, many other backgrounds, and everyone brings their knowledge, expertise, experience, and a multitude of languages spoken in the programs that we develop. When you call to learn about a program, you're actually speaking directly with the person who curates that trip and who is in touch with the local contacts on a daily basis. And during the summer, we're on call 24/7 while our programs are out in the field, and we're really ready to support with anything that comes up on the ground. So a little bit about the history of Putney. We are in our 74th summer, and this continues to be a family-run organization. We are in our third generation of family leadership. The Putney Student Travel was founded in 1951 by a couple, George and Kitty Shumlin, who were teachers, and they were concerned about the world and what they were seeing. There was more division than ever. And in 1951, George and Kitty took a group of US-based high school students to Europe by steamship. So in this post-war era, Putney programs were created to help students get out of their comfort zone and create a unifying face-to-face interaction across the lines of differences as a way to find common ground. Our mission has stayed true to this day, and we honestly feel like it's probably more important than ever. And we are so excited for the continued opportunity to collaborate with Columbia Climate School and elevate young, passionate voices and promote dialogue and participation around solutions to the climate crisis. And I believe I'm going to pass it back off.
Perfect. Thanks, Avery. All right. So now about the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains program. This is a campus-based program at Vermont State University's beautiful 165-acre campus. So the students of the Green Mountains program will be joining a cohort of like-minded students from across the country and the world. I did mention that we have quite an international body that joins us to learn from each other and to collaborate to gain an understanding of the multifaceted aspects of climate change, to learn about the individual roles in climate action, and engage in meaningful conversations about taking action in your own communities. You might be asking us why we host this program in Vermont, because the Columbia Climate School and Columbia University is based in New York City. Well, Vermont is really the perfect location for us to learn about climate solutions for a couple reasons. Vermont is a leader in the US for green energy. They've rapidly increased renewable energy like wind and solar and increased energy efficiency. Vermont is showing the country how one state can move the needle in the right direction in addressing climate change while building a more sustainable economy for its people. We also find that Vermont State University's campus is the perfect classroom or laboratory to see how climate science, technology, and policy can be applied in real life. So we really value field-based programming. It's something we're going to talk about in a little bit. This beautiful campus allows us to better understand the current conditions of an ecosystem by sampling in the woods, in our nearby creeks and streams and lakes. That can really give us a baseline understanding of the current conditions to be able to track climate impacts into the future. Some of the sampling we do also kind of tells us what has happened in the past in that area. So these are field experiences that would be a little trickier if we were in New York City. In addition, Putney Student Travel is extremely well connected in the home state of Vermont, and they can connect the students of the Green Mountains program with a diverse network of sustainability practitioners to learn about on-the-ground solutions. So students will also get to experience Vermont and all the beauty that it has in the summer in the Green Mountains. So this is our 4th year of offering this summer program. The dates are June 29th through July 11th, 2025. So it's a 13-day, 12-night program. The fee is $6,890, and this is an all-inclusive fee that covers accommodation, meals, program activities, field excursions, weekend trips, and transportation during the program. This is a pre-college program designed for grades 9th through 12th, as well as rising 9th grade students. All right, I want to share a little snippet of our mini documentary that was created from last summer's program. If you are interested in watching the full version of this mini doc, you can find it on our YouTube. Each year we have 60 to 80 students that join our program, and we break them into smaller learning cohorts so they have an ability to work in small groups on activities and also have smaller group or one-on-one discussions with experts. This program lasts for 2 weeks in Vermont, and that just really is a wonderful opportunity for students to conduct field work and to learn from the environment directly. We find that being outdoors is the best laboratory, and Vermont is the perfect place for that.
Yeah, I wish this was a program that was around when I was in high school, to be honest, because I think it is just an impressive cohort each year. What's been impressive is just how they're translating that information to, oh, I can see that being something that my community could benefit from.
One of the incredible things about this program is that we have students that come from all over the United States and the world. So this year we have students representing 6 different countries, and that diversity of backgrounds and perspectives makes these conversations and the lessons just so much more rich.
I am Lina Paykar. I'm 18 years old and I am from Kabul, Afghanistan. I came in the United States with my brother in 2021 because I applied to high school before I came here, so I was supposed to come in US as a student, but because just like 5 days before my flight to America, Taliban took over Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, that was impossible for me to follow my dreams, especially just because being a girl is like a very struggle. But at the same time, it's a very cultural country, so being an actor is like really, really hard. Something that is really important for me is like find issues that matter and connect it with what I love. So I was thinking connecting climate change with my acting career. So one of my fewest ideas were like even during the campus, I was thinking making awareness documentary or like films, so like connect them together.
Especially now, I mean, these students have so much energy and that will drive their career, right? So they come here and it's just like a springboard for them to launch into college or whatever their career interests in the future are. But I think them coming and getting a good foundation of both the science and the policy and everything else that this camp has to offer, I think is really foundational.
Across the 2 weeks, students learn from 6 different Columbia Climate School experts on a variety of climate topics. Everything from the science of climate change to thinking about how to build resilience in communities, how to communicate about climate change, policy, economics, and ultimately solutions. We also want to encourage students to learn how to debate with each other, how to do collaborative activities. And a lot of high school students don't have opportunities to engage in field work. So we have a lot of opportunities for them to go out into the field, collect samples, analyze these samples, so then they're kind of building their own scientific background and skill sets that will prepare them for college as well. We also visit Lake. All right, so that gives you a little bit of a snapshot of what being on the program looks like. But I think it would be great for us also to hear directly from a 2024 participant. So Lina, if you would like to unmute and turn your video on, I would love to ask you a little bit more about your experiences in the program.
Hi, I'm Lina. First of all, I was so invested in the video that I completely forgot. Um, my name is Lina, and I'm a senior in OES, Oregon Episcopal School in Portland, Oregon. So this is my last year. I wasn't in this program last year, and it was one of my. I have been to many pre-college program, and this one was probably one of my favorite because, um, I learned a lot. But so basically, I want to tell about my background first. So I was born in Kabul, Afghanistan, but right now I live in Portland, Oregon. Um, I was where I was born, like the air pollution and like pollution in general was like a huge problem. And I've never thought about it in a way that I can solve it, like especially because when I was there, I was like kind of kid. So I've just noticed that, like especially for example, my brother, he was like, for example, going to work, but when he was coming back home, like he was kind of sick every day because of the air pollution. So it was a huge deal in my country. And I specifically was really interested in this program because that's like I have like a strong connection to that problem. And it was a little bit shocking for me to do this program because um I've always wanted to be an actor, so I've been always like focused on that. But something that this program taught me like a lot is just to like connect like what I love to like also like the problems that we're going through. So I think this program was like really inspiring for me. Like honestly, there was like a huge amount of things that I did not know like at all before I came to this program. It sounds kind of silly, but I didn't know that climate change was even a thing before. I mean, I know it was a thing, but I didn't know it was like a thing in America. So it was like a very, very informational program, but also it was one of the programs that I've enjoyed a lot. Like the friendship that we had was really fascinating. And one of my favorite thing when I learned is like being outside and learning not just from the book or lecture, but also from nature. So I honestly really enjoy being in nature and also like learning from teachers, but at the same time from experiment. So it was really fascinating for me and I really enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, I always want to be an actress, but now when I heard about this program, I think it's really important for me to like be aware of surrounding and also like the problems that we're going through. So I did do a small project when I was in this program, which was writing a monologue from a voice of an Afghan girl who is for example, in Afghanistan. And my plan for that month, it was a short project, but my long-term project was to like follow that pattern, which is probably like advertise more awareness about environment and also like climate change through media because that's my strongest passion. So I think the biggest thing I learned from this program is like to use whatever skill I have to spread awareness about what matters. I'm still working on the some of the project, but I think for long term, I'm still planning to like spread more awareness through media and film because um, that's what I enjoy doing.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lina. What you said a bunch of things that really struck me. One of the things is that you were saying when you first were interested in this program, it was more because of these localized climate impacts you were experiencing, that there was really challenging air quality in your hometown, and you didn't realize that there were climate impacts that were all over the world, impacting places like the US. And I think that's something that we talk about quite a bit on the program, is that impacts are everywhere, but the magnitude, the type of impacts that you'd be experiencing are varied across the world. And so I'm so glad that you came on the program. And I think your climate action plan to spread awareness about climate and educate people through acting and through media is so necessary, because I think a lot of people felt or think the way that you did before you came on the program. They might be thinking, oh, climate change is an issue that, the next generation's going to deal with. We don't have to deal with it right now, but that's not the case. And so we really need to spread the word. And I think through film and media is a really great way to engage a broad audience. So I love that plan for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm also curious. So you mentioned that you learned from a bunch of different experts on the program. Was there any one particular lesson or activity that really stuck with you now that the program's been over? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite thing honestly was like giving a specific project. And I love the idea of when teachers or you guys ask how you're gonna follow that up after the program. And I think doing the program as a long-term project, or they encouraging us to do it as a long project is really necessary. And I think it's really encouraging because it's just not a day or 2 day work. So my favorite thing, and also like the only thing that stuck to me is how I can continue my project in a bigger way and not just a little homework for a day or two.
Yeah. And that's the whole point. Is this is a 2-week full immersion program. You're going to be learning from experts and each other and practitioners out in the real world. You're going to feel this high. You're going to feel empowered to make a change. But once the program's over, we really want you to continue that action, because this is the work of our lifetime. It has to be sustainable, because it's not a one and done fix. There is no silver bullet. There is no one hero for the climate crisis. It really takes all of us. So that's our goal too. I'm glad that that was something that really resonated with you. And Lina, outside of the academics, we got to do a lot of fun things in Vermont. Was there any, I know we showed you berry picking in the documentary. Was there anything that you did that was just super unique to Vermont that you loved most?
I would say definitely as catching fish because I've never catch fish with a net before in my life. I think it was really fun. Like it was really experimental and we learned a lot, but I feel like it was a really fun experiment that we had like fun, we laughed, we enjoyed, but at the same time, like we got connected to each other, but also learned. And I feel like it was probably, I still remember the time we caught our first fish, and I think we were all so proud. So I think just outdoor activity, especially at the beach and experimenting with stuff, I think it was probably very my favorite thing to do.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I just wanted to share this picture of us dragging this net through the water. It's a little
Yeah, that's what I'm
tricky.
talking about.
I know it's a practice skill. It takes a little while, but I remember the cheering that happened when we caught the first fish. It was really great.
Yeah.
And Lina, in kind of in a similar vein of talking about how to connect people through the arts to climate science, I have this picture of you at the Stragnall Art Center of this gentleman that
Oh,
was using recycled materials to explain about different environmental and earth phenomena. And so I thought that was very similar, connecting people through film, media, the arts. It's a really great way to connect people to climate.
yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice to anyone listening today, I would be curious to hear what you would share.
Um, I would say just be curious and have fun. Like it's not just about like it's just not about like what you learn, but also what you experience and what you enjoy. Like it's the friendship, but also it's the people that you know there, because you can always like work together or like be connected after the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Lina will be able to answer any questions at the end. So if you have any questions for Lina and her experience in the program, feel free to use the Q&A. But thank you, Lina, for sharing your story with us. All right. So now I want to talk about some of the program themes that we talk about in the Green Mountains program. So each summer, the program content varies based on the feedback that we receive from past participants, but the 2024 summer program themes included the science of climate change, which includes talking about the greenhouse effect, an introduction to the physics of Earth's temperature, natural variability versus anthropogenic change, climate projections, and modeling. We also talk about climate impacts. This includes global processes like sea level rise, glacial melt, average global temperature increases, as well as local impacts, which vary by geography, which we were just talking about. So this can impact local ecosystems, economies, and communities. We have an expert from the National Center for Disaster Preparedness that joins us to discuss preparedness and risk, recovery and planning, and mitigation and adaptation strategies. We also discuss international climate policies and negotiations. This includes sustainable development goals in the Paris Agreement, the United Nations climate change negotiations, and global governance and international law. That same expert also leads us through decarbonization pathways and the energy transition. This includes how do we monitor and measure our progress to reach these net zero goals? And what does it take to transition from fossil fuels to renewables? We talk about climate justice throughout many of our lessons. And this past year, we focused on one session dedicated to climate justice, which really discussed how these impacts are disproportionately impacting different communities, and that we have to think about solutions with keeping equity and inclusivity at the top of our priority list. We talk about sustainability and the circular economy. So Sandra talks about the consumerism and throwaway culture, building a value chain, new economic models and circular systems, and achieving sustainable business practices. And we go through an activity to kind of help students re-envision what a circular system could look like. We also discuss climate change communication and conversation, specifically focusing on different techniques for fostering an open dialogue on climate issues. We had discussed that we have a lot of applied solutions in action. So it's an opportunity for us to learn from different sustainability practitioners about the implementation of sustainable practices and translating some of these concepts we talk about in the classroom into real world applications. And then climate solutions and collective action. So we talk about local community initiatives, how to include strategic stakeholders into your climate action plan, and the very important role of youth in the climate movement. All right, so we have 6 Columbia Climate School experts that lead these lessons and activities for the Green Mountains program. And these experts lead in a variety of different sectors, including climate science, social science, sustainability, finance, and policy. We have Laurel DiSera here with us today. So I'm going to let Laurel introduce herself and her background.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. Glad you're able to make it on the call. Like the other Laurel said, my name is Laurel DiSera. I am finishing my PhD in climate science at Columbia University. So I study and do research on how different modes of climate variability, like El Nino, if you've heard of that before, how they impact rainfall patterns around the world and how those rainfall patterns change from year to year. So I study a little bit of that. And then I also study how people use climate information. So forecasts, for example, or information that they get from their national meteorological services. How they use that information. Do they use it? Do they trust it? Do they have their own indigenous or local knowledge or knowledge from their parents and grandparents that they use, specifically farmers? So I kind of have 2 areas of research that I conduct, both climate science wise and also climate information and climate services. I've been teaching in the Green Mountains program 3 years, I think now, and really enjoy it every time. I feel like I get there and it's just so energizing because the students have so many great questions and are very active in the classes that I teach. So I teach the classes on climate science basics. So I teach first, when you go to the camp, there will be a class on kind of introducing everyone to make sure everyone's on the same page about climate basics, how the climate works, and just generally thinking about climates of different cultures. And then I also teach the class that talks about the physics of climate. So understanding the greenhouse effect, doing some math and physics to understand radiation and balance of heat coming in and out of the earth. As well as looking at the IPCC reports, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and the science that comes out of the research done by this group. So that's kind of some of the basics of what are in the classes that I teach. And we also have some fun activities that we do. And I don't want to spoil those too much, but they're a lot of fun.
Thanks, Laurel. Yeah, Laurel will
Yeah.
pop back in later to share about some of the activities that we do. We definitely incorporate a lot of different learning modalities into the program.
Yes. Awesome.
Our next expert is Miriam Nelson. So Miriam is a PhD student in the Earth and Environmental Sciences at Columbia University and NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies. Miriam's really interested in how severe hazards will change under warming and the vulnerability of people and ecosystems to these changes. She uses large-scale climate data sets and modeling simulations to investigate regional climate and ecosystem dynamics related to precipitation and drought. She, as Laurel mentioned, she co-teaches the climate science primer, that introduction for students, and then she also teaches the climate modeling and projections lesson. Josh DeVincenzo is an assistant director at the National Center for Disaster Preparedness. He focuses on developing learning experiences associated with FEMA training projects that navigate housing and economic recovery. Josh teaches climate change communication, climate change conversation, and the preparedness tools and strategies session. Martin Dietrich Brauch is a lead researcher at the Columbia Center on Sustainable Investment. He leads economic and legal research, training, and advisory work with a focus on legal and policy frameworks and practices for sustainable investment to achieve climate mitigation and adaptation goals. These goals include decarbonization and a just transition to net zero emissions energy systems and economies, and other sustainable development goals. So Martin teaches sustainable development goals in the Paris Agreement, decarbonization pathways, monitoring and measuring progress, global governance, and international law. So Martin teaches quite a handful of lessons with us. Sandra Goldmark is the Associate Professor of Practice in the Department of Theater at Barnard College and the Director of Campus Sustainability and Climate Action at Barnard, and an Associate Dean of Interdisciplinary Engagement at the Columbia Climate School. So Sandra wears many hats, but Sandra has a really unique background because she started in theater. And so her pathway to sustainability started because in the theater, she saw a lot of set production and costume design that was quite wasteful. You prep for a show, and at the end of the show, all of that seemed to have just gone to the dumpster. And so this opened her eyes up to this huge waste problem that we have. And it encouraged her to take a deep dive into how we could take linear systems and make them more circular. So she dove into the circular economy. She ended up founding this nonprofit called Fix Up, which uses a multidisciplinary approach to focus on creating innovative solutions to the use and discard culture. So in the program, Sandra teaches the introduction to circular economy, from linear to circular, and connections to circularity. I also realized I never introduced myself. So hi, everyone. My name is Laurel Zaima-Sheehy. I'm the Assistant Director of K-12 and Continuing Education at the Columbia Climate School, and I also teach on the program. So I have a lot of experience working with young people and teaching them about environmental science, sustainability, climate science, impacts, and how to take action. And the audiences that I teach include high school students, undergraduates, teachers, and the general public. So I teach the climate change in your community, which focuses on understanding the scope of climate impacts across the world, climate activism, and empowering youth for change. I have a background in sustainability science. I also have a background in marine science. And so I also lead a lot of the field activities that help us to understand the current existing conditions of our ecosystem, as well as some sampling approaches that can help us understand the past. So in addition to the academic rigor that we ensure on the program, we also make sure that students have a chance to learn in many different ways and have fun while doing it. So there are a variety of different purposeful activities and immersive experiences that students have throughout the program. We do have a speaker series, which is more or less lectures, giving students an understanding of what college might be like. We also focus on team building and project-based learning opportunities, small group learning environments where students engage in debates and simulations that deepen their understanding of climate challenges and solutions. We have a variety of excursions that showcase practitioners applying climate solutions in their careers. We focus on hands-on fieldwork that allows students the experience of data collection and analysis, which will also be really critical for their college career. We have a final climate action project, which is what Lina was talking about a little bit earlier, where students develop a solution or plan to address one of the climate challenges that their community faces. The students then share their final projects at the end of the program to get feedback and advice from the Columbia Climate School experts, as well as their peers. And the goal is for them to get this feedback to improve their project and continue working on it long after the program's over. And we try and all stay in touch through an extensive alumni network so we can support each other in that work. We also have a lot of fun activities that explore Vermont as well that will give you a little bit of a taste of some of the activities that we do. But we wanted to give you a sneak peek at the programs as well. So given that there are no prerequisites on the program, we start with the climate science primer. So this ensures that all students have this foundational understanding that they can build on throughout the program. And since this is co-taught by Laurel, I'll let Laurel share a little bit more about this lesson, as well as the activity that we do that goes along with it.
There we go. I think my video came on. Yeah, I think I jumped the gun a little bit and said a little bit in my intro about this class that I teach with Miriam. Well, we co-teach it kind of in different groups, but this class is really to just make sure everyone's on the same page. So whether you've taken an AP environmental science class already in high school, or you're just coming out of 8th grade and you've had some earth science, like this class is just to make sure everyone's on the same page so that our climate science class makes sense to everyone. So we cover a broad range of content. We talk about weather versus climate. We talk about different climate zones and their classifications, what they mean, and thinking about how they kind of make sense on the globe. Some are closer to the poles and some are closer to the equator. So we kind of talk about that. And then something I'm very passionate about, talking about the climate's influences on society. How do we interact with our climate? How does our climate impact us? What do we do to separate ourselves from the climate that we live in? In fact, today in Minnesota, we got 7 inches of snow. So, it's trying to understand how to keep ourselves safe and warm, and yet also going out to shovel is a reality that I'm currently living. And then we have in Vermont, there's not snow during the program, but we have a lot of outside activities. So one of the fun activities that we do is called, so I'm not exactly sure what the title is specifically, but we talk about radiation and greenhouse gases. And so we play this fun activity where students are greenhouse gases and or radiation from the sun. So you can kind of see students running around and like there's a big circle, and we attempt to use this activity to talk about how greenhouse gases impact the trapping of heat in the Earth's atmosphere. It's kind of like a game of tag, and students get quite excited about it. So yeah, really fun, and something that you'll start out with right away at the beginning of the camp. Oh, it looks like we have a video. Come on, Destiny! That was such a good moment.
It is so fun. And so, Laurel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially what's happening, the Frisbee is the Earth. They are radiation that is being, bounced back from the Earth, but they have to make it past the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Is that more or less right?
Yeah. So that was a particularly special experience because they kind of ganged together to make sure at least one person didn't get touched by the greenhouse gases so they could escape. So it was definitely a fun activity. I think that was the first time we did it.
Yeah, it was
a couple of
great.
years ago. Yeah.
Thanks, Laurel. If you have any questions for Laurel, she'll also be with us throughout the program. So feel free to ask Laurel all of your climate science questions. Oh, okay. Our next lesson that we're going to share tonight is about the preparedness tools and strategies lesson. This is led by Josh DiVincenzo. As a reminder, he's from the National Center for Disaster Preparedness. So he creates this simulation for the students, which is a really fast-paced activity that facilitates an understanding of the emergency notification process of a county government after the remains of a unnatural disaster, as you will. This activity, it really simulates a real life scenario of a government call center. So it is intended to be quite chaotic. The students are challenged to work together and think collaboratively on how to get to solutions in a variety of different areas. So there are different groups that work on the health and safety, the transportation, the economics. And so they all have to collaborate to come to some final conclusions after actually it's a scenario where Vermont is impacted. So I'll give you a little snippet of what it's like to be in this simulation as well.
Don't touch the water, don't break the water, don't drink the water, don't use the water, don't ban the water, don't smell the water, look at the water.
Okay. So a little crazy. You can see that there's a stopwatch on the back because Josh breaks it up into there are different scenarios that he throws in there as they're working. And clearly something happened in Vermont around water, but I'm not going to give it away in case if you join the program. All right, the next activity or the lesson is the Decarbonization's Pathways lesson by Martin Dietrich Brauch. So he shares about a broad range of policy approaches and technologies that are needed for the rapid reduction of CO2. This includes, but is not limited to, energy efficiency, behavior changes, electrification, renewables, hydrogen and hydrogen-based fuel, bioenergy, carbon capture use and storage. One of the things that Martin talks about that really strikes me is that the emissions from the richest 1% of the global populations account for more than twice the combined share of the poorest 50%. And that is a quote from the UN Environment Emissions Gap Report. And that was back in 2020. So those percentages might have even have shifted since. But he really highlights that there is this disproportionate impact on countries and communities that have contributed towards climate change the least, which is really driving this climate injustice question on a global scale. So he really talks about that with the students and engages in a couple different activities for them to think about how they can decarbonize in different sectors as well as different countries around the world. All the students in the Green Mountains program come together to participate in the climate negotiations activity. This is a role-playing game that's premised on the International Climate Summit, like the Conference of the Parties that we just had COP29. So it is kind of around as if students were going representing different countries at that particular conference. So we have different student groups. As I mentioned, they'll represent countries. They'll also represent negotiating blocks, or in some cases, interest groups like the fossil fuel interest group. They all have to work, debate, negotiate to ultimately try and keep climate change well below 2 degrees C or stay within 1.5 degrees C as our primary goal. It's a really great way to understand and experiences some of the challenges that happen during international negotiations and how to drive solutions forward. So we have a clip from this negotiation. You can imagine having all the students together working on this one activity can get a little intense as well.
If you guys live in underprivileged countries and underprivileged communities, you guys are really talking about
I'm not exactly sure who's negotiating what here, but it sounds like perhaps a oil wealthy country is being talked to by a negotiating group, perhaps, to reduce their emissions. We also have the circular economy lessons that are taught by Sandra Goldmark. These present core concepts of the circular economy. So she does an introduction, and then there's an activity where student groups have to critically think and strategically implement a linear system that's currently circular. It can be a product, it can be a process, but the students, they have to then present their new circular systems to the class for feedback and input. So we had one group, this is a group that always pops into my head. They were talking about the unsustainable process of resource extraction and creation for caskets. But what they thought of instead was using mushrooms that are completely decomposable as a way to create caskets. So when they are buried in the ground, they are decomposed and the nutrients go back into the earth and ultimately life. So that was one that was very interesting and unique. So students come up with a whole bunch of great ideas. We also lead a variety of field activities that allow students to gain technical and research-based skills through data collection and analysis. While students don't engage in their own formal research project on the program due to time constraints, these research-based activities provide them with unique sampling and fieldwork experiences that will be really important for their college careers. So some of these activities just provide a little snapshot of what a day in the life of a biologist or scientist or climatologist might be. So in this particular activity, we did a biodiversity survey and water chemistry testing at a nearby lake. This is really important because it's To be able to track climate changes locally, you have to understand what the current conditions are right now and then build that long-term database of at least 30 years of data. So the students are contributing to that understanding by doing a biological survey, sampling the different fish and organisms that live in the water body here, as well as doing a water chemistry test. So depending on the hardiness or the sensitivity of the species we catch can give us a sense of the water quality. And then we can back it up with some of these water chemistry tests that we do, like dissolved oxygen, pH, temperature, salinity, those type of things. Okay, we also survey macroinvertebrates in a stream to assess water quality. So macroinvertebrates are essentially tiny aquatic bugs that start their life in water before they metamorphose into flying or land insects. And these tiny aquatic bugs are really important for assessing water quality without the use of any chemicals, which is really great. So they all have different tolerances or hardinesses to different varying degrees of water quality. So if we have some of the most sensitive species, then that is an indication that the water quality is very good in this creek. And so this is actually a protocol that's used all throughout the United States to assess water quality of creeks and streams in communities. We also measure or we collect tree rings. And they can tell us a lot about past climate. So there's an entire research group at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory that studies dendrochronology, which is essentially studying the past from trees. And so students, they use the exact same equipment from this lab there. They have their tree core. They're able to take a small sample from a tree. You can see it's very small. It's almost like the size of a pencil, so it doesn't harm the tree, but it gives us a lot of valuable data to better understand what the different growing conditions were like in the past. And based on understanding what this specific species needs in terms of optimal growing, we can then go back in time and better assess what the climate conditions were like. What were the temperatures, the water, how much precipitation was happening. And then we can also correlate that data with some temperature and precipitation data of the area. So this is a really great opportunity for students to engage in another type of fieldwork. One of our first excursions is to the Darien Freshwater Institute at Lake George. This provides students an opportunity to learn about how climate is impacting this region, particularly the aquatic environment. So they engage in a virtual reality session to learn about the importance of plankton for our climate and our ecosystem, a teaching lab about the various invasive and native species in the lake and how they are impacted by climate change, learning about how remote operative vehicles underwater are collecting data, as well as drones are able to fly and assess our ecosystem conditions as well. So this is a really great partnership that allowed us to learn more about climate impacts locally. Students also spend an entire day at Burlington, Vermont to hear from a panel of sector experts that are implementing sustainability into their work. We also visit Burlington Electric, which is one of the first US cities to source 100% of its electricity from renewable sources. Ooh, there we go. So students will hear about how Burlington Electric achieved this ambitious goal and about their community-based educational approaches to energy savings. Ooh, it has a mind of its own. Okay, so we also include a lot of fun activities for students to explore Vermont. So this includes things like hiking, berry picking, interacting with alpacas, visiting a sustainable farm, stargazing, roasting s'mores by the bonfire, beach days, and so much more. We really have a lot of opportunity to have fun on the program as well and to make lifelong friendships. So project-based learning is really critical for students to apply their new knowledge and their skills to create real change in their communities once they go home. So each student, as we mentioned, creates a climate action plan. And we've had a diversity of projects developed from the program. Students are able to choose what project they want to engage in based on their own interests and skill sets. So we've had things like a prom dress swap or an online thrift store to promote circularity and reduction of waste, since oftentimes we wear our prom dresses once and then never wear them again. Someone was really interested in coding and they found ways to decarbonize their school's website. Someone else was looking to install solar panels on their school's building, and another person on their apartment building. We had someone look at wetland restoration in Texas and create a whole curriculum around it. And that project is actually being implemented in schools today. So that's the goal. We really want these things to come to fruition. And our keystone speaker at the end of the program is Governor Pete Shumlin, who was the 81st governor of Vermont, and he was able to initiate a lot of climate legislation for the state of Vermont. So he shares a little bit about that journey. Okay, now we have just a few minutes left. I'm going to pass it over to Avery to share more about program eligibility, application, and next steps.
Hi, I'm back. So to apply for the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains, you should visit our website, which I'm going to drop in the chat in a minute. So students who are eligible are completing 9th through 12th grade or are motivated rising 9th graders. And your application is considered through selective application process, but we have a rolling admissions process. You're asked to submit a statement of interest, tell us why you're interested in joining the program, and then we ask for 2 teacher references. And you'll be asked to complete an agreement form, and to hold space on the program, there's a $700 deposit, which is comprised of a $200 application fee and then a $500 deposit on the tuition. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about this process. And then for Scholar, I'll drop both of the links in a second too. So we're really excited to be able to offer both full and partial need-based scholarships to attend our program for students who reside in the US. So to apply for a scholarship, students should meet the general admissions eligibility requirement. And the application is on a separate page of our website and asks for 2 response submissions, 2 teacher references, and then financial information for your household. And the scholarship applications are due March 15th, 2025. And those are available for current 9th through 12th graders and motivated rising 9th graders who currently reside in the United States. So international students, including US students living abroad, are not eligible. And we have more information on that scholarship information on, it's a little repetitive there, but we have our scholarship information on that link. And it's based on a 4-person household, but there's some variety there. And if you find that your income is over the eligibility guideline recommendations and you have extenuating circumstances that you would like the selection committee to consider, families are able to include this information in the scholarship application. And the selection committee will not require proof of financial eligibility. However, we remind applicants that these are need-based scholarships intended for students and families that need this and have a passion for climate change. And there's a special emphasis placed on individuals that are underrepresented in STEAM and or are first generation in their family to attend college. So I'm gonna drop the scholarship link first, just because that's where I'm at in the chat.
Oh, I already got you, Avery.
Oh, you did it. You're amazing. Thank you. Incredible.
No
And if you
problem.
have any other questions about our application or our scholarship opportunity, that is something that we're always happy to have a conversation about, either via phone, via email. So just feel free to reach out.
Awesome. That brings us to our question and answer session. So I saw that we had a few questions in the chat. Feel free to populate more. I'll read out a few of these while we wait for folks to think and share some questions, because the questions you have are likely questions that other people have. So someone asked, how is the housing situation and where are the dorms located? So the program is at Vermont State University. It's in Castleton, Vermont. We stay in the dorms. Students have this real college experience. They're most of the time eating in the dining hall and moving around a college campus. All of the staff also live on campus, so there's always supervision around. This webinar will be recorded and posted on our Climate School YouTube page. I will also share a recording out to everyone that is in attendance today or was unfortunately unable to make it today. I'll be able to share this with you as well. This is a great question. Someone asked, are the grades broken out in this program or all the students learning together? So we intentionally break the students into 4 biomes that are mixed grades because we think that there's a lot of learning that happens in the student cohorts as well. We want students to learn from each other, collaborate together, and kind of process the information that they've heard from experts in these small learning communities. And so we break them up into small cohorts. You saw there are some activities where the students are all learning together, which is fantastic, but we also really want to ensure that they have small groups to collaborate, network with the experts, network with each other, and we ensure that they're all mixed so they can learn from each other as well. Okay, we have a few questions. Is the program available for students who are high school graduates? We have we've had in the past students that are current 12th grade students, rising freshmen in college. And yes, absolutely, you are eligible for this program. We definitely encourage you to apply. And I think the unique and fun thing about that is that a lot of the students' college action or climate action projects are related to what they want to start once they enter their freshman year of college, which is great, whether it be, contributing toward a club or starting their own club or creating a sustainability plan on their campus if it doesn't already exist. So a lot of those climate action projects are really great. How many students are in a dorm/suite and how are students partnered as roommates? I will share, but Avery, feel free to pop in and let me know if there's any additional information to provide here. So the students are 2 to a dorm room, and we assess in the application process if the student has any extenuating circumstances, but more or less the rooms are randomized. Is that right, Avery?
Yeah, I mean, it because we don't have a huge amount of background on students prior to placement, it is somewhat randomized. If friends are coming as a pair, we try to separate them actually to allow for some more integration within the group, though that isn't very often. But yeah, and then if a student for some reason needs a single, that's something we have a conversation about.
Absolutely. Awesome. I don't see any other questions. Last call, but if you find that there are questions that arise after the program or after this info session's over, no problem. We are always available by phone or by email. You can see our contact information is here. It's also on our website. So feel free to reach out to us whenever. We're always happy to answer any questions. We also have the ability to do one-on-one conversations that are video sessions with you and your family if you'd like to talk to us about some more specific questions related to your participation in the program. All right, I don't think we have any other questions. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been really great, and we look forward to seeing you this summer. Thanks, everyone. Take care.